This is good old John J. Crittenden. John Fitzgerald Kennedy. John J. Crittenden. So John Jordan. What does the J stand for? It stands for Jordan. And now this guy is a senator, a U.S. House of Representative. He was the governor of Kentucky. John J. Crittenden was Mr. Kentucky for about 50 fucking years. He wasn't just part of the U.S. House for 2 years during the Civil War. He was also a senator for like 2 or 3 or 4 times or some shit from 1842 to 48, 1855 to 1861. I even heard that he was a senator way back in 1817. So this is John J. Crittenden. Now, John J. Crittenden is the namesake of Crittenden, Kentucky, which is in Grant County in northern Kentucky. And Crittenden in northern Kentucky used to be called Pinhook. It used to be called Pinhook. So I want to talk about just John J. Crittenden and his legacy and how he's connected to Crittenden, Kentucky. Crittenden, Kentucky used to be called Pinhook. Now you got I-75 that goes right through Crittenden, Kentucky. You got I-75 that goes right through Crittenden, Kentucky. There's Blue Beacon right there. Right now where Blue Beacon is. So you have a Save-A-Lot. I don't know. Okay, so Crittenden, Kentucky used to be called Pinhook. So for all those bastards that's like, well, you got to call things by the old name no matter what. Well, you're going to go to Crittenden, Kentucky? Why do you say Crittenden, Kentucky? That's named after John J. Crittenden. He kept Kentucky in the Union. So there's a bunch of racists in Kentucky. Why do I know that? Because I was around all that shit growing up. I was raised by a Confederate child abusing pile of shit who still thinks that the Confederacy still exists today. Huh? America won. America beat the Confederacy? Well, that don't make no sense. Why not? Because everybody you're around is a bunch of white supremacists. That means there's pockets in northern Kentucky that still think that the Confederacy won. And it's called Pinhook. You're going to call Crittenden, Kentucky, Crittenden? No, I never change. I never change anything. It's always going to be Pinhook to me. Good old Pinhook, Kentucky. Crittenden, Kentucky. I don't know no Crittenden, Kentucky. I only know Pinhook, Kentucky. Because I can't go along with the times. I can't go along with new changes. And thank God for Crittenden, Kentucky. Thank God for John Jordan Crittenden. He had an illustrious career. 2 years in the U.S. House. At least 12 years. Maybe, fucking 18. He was the Attorney General of several states. Illinois. He was the Attorney General of 3 presidents. Millard Fillmore, John Tyler, William Henry Harrison. John Jordan Crittenden was just a political dynamo. He was a Whig. He was a disciple of Henry Clay, which so was Abraham Lincoln. Apparently everybody loved Henry Clay and his stupid American system. Henry Clay was a slave-owning piece of shit. But John J. Crittenden, he was born in 1787, born in Versailles. It's Versailles in French. That's what the city is called in France, Versailles. But in Kentucky, you say every syllable, so it's Versailles. So John J. Crittenden was born in Versailles in 1787. John Jordan Crittenden was a Whig. And then he became a know-nothing. And then he became a constitutional unionist. So he was a Whig, right? Henry Clay Whig. But then the Whigs were going down. And the slavery question just kept on getting stronger and stronger. So what happened? This is the rise of the Republican Party. The Republicans were a third party. So you had the Whigs and you had the Federalists. What happened to those? Oh, the third parties will never have a chance. We don't have ranked choice voting, so our election system fundamentally is not fair. We don't have ranked choice voting. So you can't vote. It's not a fair election. Whig, know nothing, constitutional unionist, 1856, constitutional unionist, 1859. Then I guess he's going to become a Republican because he's going to be on the side of Abraham Lincoln. But he's going to die in 1863, so he dies halfway through the Civil War. He never sees what happens after the Civil War. So he's the 17th governor of Kentucky. He did a whole bunch of things with public schools, passed some bill for public schools. He refurbished the jail. There was a big constitutional convention. They wrote a brand new constitution. He was the governor of Kentucky from 1848 to 1850. Now, the same dumb pieces of shit, the racist sons of bitches that still call Crittenden pinhook, and they're a bunch of white supremacists who doesn't realize that the United States of America was victorious. You've been electing presidents after presidents, and you think that you're part of the Confederacy? What the fuck? How stupid are you, you fucking dumb motherfucker? Crittenden is going to be big for his Crittenden Compromise, and while it's important, but he basically goes against Lincoln, and Lincoln was against it from jump. The big thing with Lincoln wasn't that he was against slavery everywhere. He was, but he said constitutionally he couldn't do shit about slavery in the republics, in the states. But in the territories, Abraham Lincoln wasn't going to let slavery get extended into the territories. Well, the Crittenden Compromise, which he produced December 1860, there was 6 amendments, 4 resolutions. William Seward is actually going to support it. When Abraham Lincoln got killed, William Seward, you had Lewis Powell that tried to stab the shit out of William Seward, and he almost died. So William Seward was very much a huge, abolitionist. So it's kind of crazy that he supported the compromise, but I guess in a way they were kind of saying, let's try a compromise one more time. So John Jordan Crittenden tried to do the compromise. When the compromise failed, that's when you had 4 states that seceded. 4 states seceded right afterwards. Abraham Lincoln was against it because he didn't want slavery to be extended into the territories. It's going to fail. And then after it fails, you're going to have Fort Sumter is going to get attacked by the racist, white supremacist, Confederate, fucking degenerate, perverted sons of bitches. John J. Crittenden kept Kentucky in the Union. John J. Crittenden kept Kentucky in America. He died 1863. He was running for the Senate, yet once again, he died in Frankfort, born in Versailles, Sally's, and then he's going to die in Frankfort. And I heard that was Frank's Ford. Anyways. So Senator Thomas Crittenden was a major general in the Union Army. It was brother versus brother, actually, because you're going to have one that goes to the Confederacy. But that's Breckinridge. And then John Bell, during the election of 1860, Lincoln is going to beat Breckinridge. Abraham Lincoln beat Breckinridge 180 to 72. So Breckinridge is going to lose. Douglas got 12 electoral college votes, but this John Bell, Kentucky, Virginia, and Tennessee voted for John Bell. He came in a healthy 3rd place. And in fact, that should have triggered a House contingent election. So I'm not for sure. I guess with the southern states, they didn't know the U.S. Constitution. There was supposed to be a House contingent election, and then the House was going to decide who the president was. So all was not lost, but they just didn't know the damn they didn't know the rules to the land. John Bell won 39 electoral college votes because he won Virginia, Tennessee, and Kentucky. John J. Crittenden supported John Bell. So that's interesting that he supported John Bell. John Bell takes Kentucky, but Lincoln won 180. Breckinridge won 72. So Lincoln seems to be the winner. If we don't do the House contingent election, John Bell's going to say, hey, we got to do the House contingent election. But we only did that one time. The House contingent election was 1825. So they should have known about this shit. But I guess with everybody just quitting and seceding, fuck the USA. So you white supremacists, you neo-Confederate fucks, you're against America. You're fundamentally against who America is and what America's about. I love the Bill of Rights and the 3 branches of government. I love that we're fighting tyranny. There's a lot of great ideas that come from the American Revolution. We wouldn't have this country without the American Revolution. These Confederate sons of bitches, they want to say, yeah, well, we get freedoms and rights, but not the black man because he's not an actual man. He is a man, you stupid motherfucker. He's the original man. You're just a mutated albino. You're a lesser man than the black man. You're recessive. He is dominant. Is that the reason why you're a bunch of racist piles of shit? Senator Thomas Crittenden was a major general in the Union Army. So the biggest thing I want to talk about John Jordan Crittenden was that he fought to keep Kentucky in the Union. He fought for America. He was on the side of Abraham So many things with the Homestead Act, so many things that Lincoln did was sweeping, revolutionary. The Civil War was revolutionary. The English Civil War was good for England, and the American Civil War was good for America. And it's Crittenden, Kentucky. It's not Pinhook, you stupid pieces of shit. It's always been Pinhook to me. It's always going to be Pinhook forever and ever. Because I'm a dumb motherfucker. Because you're a racist, child abusing, fucking degenerate, wicked, perverted piece of shit. After Fort Sumter was attacked by the racists. So that's all the notes that I got. But essentially, he kept Kentucky in the Union. John Jefferson Crittenden kept Kentucky in the Union. Against his father's wishes, George was going to resign as a lieutenant colonel. Well, that was dumb. And then he joined the fucking racist. But then he's going to lose at Mill Springs. Whoops. The Battle of Mill Springs is going to put an end to old George Crittenden's career. What happened at the Battle of Mill Springs? Battle. Let's see. We'll come back to that in a second. Now, George's brother, Thomas Leonidas Crittenden, was a member of Buckner State Guard, but joined the Union Army. So he did the exact opposite. And then he advanced to the rank of brigadier general, serving under Don Carlos Buell. So one brother, Thomas, is going to be an American man, but this fucking George, he's a Confederate bitch. And he loses at Mill Springs. And he lost his career, they said, at Mill Springs. So we'll have to come back to that, the Battle of Mill Springs. I bet you a lot of Confederates were killed but he lost his career. So I'm wondering, how did that happen? He was the major general. So I guess he lost the battle. And it's like, get the fuck out of here, you. Another son, Eugene, served in the Union Army, and he obtained the rank of colonel. Then you had a grandson, and who gives a shit? So you had two sons who was a part of the Union, and one goddamn George. George, what the hell is your problem, you piece of shit? Your father was on the right side of history, you dumb motherfucker. And it was crazy. Basically, the election of 1860 happens, and then America's in a civil war. We're having an election here in about a year. Not even, it's over a year from now, but it's within a year. You start, I think the campaign starts actually the day after the election. Now I want to read this little paragraph here. After Congress adjourned in late July 1861, John Jordan Crittenden returned home to Frankfort, but he had to flee because the Braxton Bragg and Edmund Kirby Smith had invaded Kentucky, and they captured both Frankfort and Lexington. So that's incredible. They couldn't go to Lexington or Frankfort. He goes to his temporary residence at Louisville's Galt House Hotel. And he was still residing there when Union General William Bull Nelson was killed by Brigadier General Jefferson C. Davis. There in 1862. Jefferson Davis. Why did Jefferson Davis get to live? That John Surratt got to live too. Abraham Lincoln got assassinated, and Jefferson Davis got to live to be an old man spreading his fucking hate-filled fucking white supremacist bullshit. That motherfucker started a war against our country. Why did he get to live to be an old man? And then that John Surratt had like 7 children. He returned to his home in Frankfort shortly after the Battle of Perryville, drove the Confederates from the state, October 8th, 1862. When he returned to Kentucky following the 37th Congress, Crittenden's health was failing. He frequently complained of shortness of breath and chest pain. He determined to retire. In his nomination, Crittenden and his wife were en route to an alum spring in Indiana to seek treatment to alleviate the symptoms of his failing health when he collapsed in Louisville. After remaining bedfast at the home of a local doctor, he returned home to Frankfort, where he died on July 26, 1863. So he made it back to Frankfort. He was interned at the State Cemetery in Frankfort. Among other notable kinsmen were nephews Thomas Theodore Crittenden, congressman from Missouri, and Thomas Turpin Crittenden, a general in the Union Army. Another one? I mean, my God, these Crittendens are freaking awesome. They're such badasses. And so there are some racists in Crittenden. So they wouldn't know any of this shit. They wouldn't know that John J. Crittenden kept Kentucky in America. That even though he may have had some, sympathies with some of the South, he did was against secession. No, we're going to keep the Union going. What are you doing? You're breaking up the family. You're breaking up the country. So he was on the right side of history. Good old John J. Crittenden. He fought to keep Kentucky in America, and that's made Kentucky a better place today. Could you imagine what Kentucky would be like if the fucking Confederates had fucking won? Bunch of backwards fucking piles of shit. And it would have been inevitable. What, you think you're going to keep slavery forever? You're going to keep the black man, keep the boot on the black man's neck forever and ever without anybody or the black man or anybody doing anything about it? How long did you think you was going to oppress the black people, you fucking motherfuckers? They're clearly people, and they're actually the original man, so their genetics are stronger than yours. Motherfucking Aryan nation sons of bitches. Act like your race is the best when it's the worst. You're a fucking mutated albino, which means you're recessive. And not to rub it in your face, white folks hold their own. So that's John J. Crittenden. And Crittenden, Kentucky is not Pinhook, you son of a bitch. You call it Pinhook, get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. There ain't no motherfucker.